You don't join a cartel in one step, you get pulled in through small jobs that feel harmless until you realize you're already inside the machine. And by the time you understand the rules are controlling you. At the first stage, you're basically a lookout. A teenager posted in public like a piece of street furniture, told to observe and report anything unusual. It's sold as easy money for doing almost nothing, just sitting there with a phone and a drink, watching traffic, noticing patterns, sending quick alerts. The point isn't skill, it's exposure. You learn who has influence, who looks away, and who can't be bought. You notice that some authority figures appear predictable and friendly, and you also learn there are certain units that don't operate on favors. Then you make a mistake. Maybe you hesitate. Maybe you miss a moment you were supposed to flag, and the response teaches you what this world really is. No long speeches, no second chances, just a calm reminder that failure has consequences and fear is the system's favorite teacher. After that, your attention becomes perfect, because it has to be. The next stage is transportation, and it's where the work stops feeling like a gig and starts feeling like a sentence hanging over your head. You're older, you can drive, and someone tests whether you can follow instructions without asking questions. You're given a vehicle and a load that looks ordinary from the outside, but you understand it isn't ordinary at all. The job is simple on paper. Move from one place to another on a schedule. Don't deviate. Don't attract attention. Don't panic. The risk is the entire point, because risk is how they control loyalty. If you're stopped, your future disappears. If you succeed, you're rewarded enough to make success feel addictive. The first time you get paid, it doesn't just change your wallet, it changes your mind. You start measuring life against that envelope of cash, and everything else begins to look slow, weak, or pointless. You repeat the run, then again, and soon it becomes routine, which is exactly when people become careless. You see others get caught and discover how disposable workers are. The organization doesn't pause, doesn't mourn, and often doesn't rescue you. It replaces you. That's the brutal truth under the promises. If you fall, the system keeps moving as if you never existed. After you've proven you can handle pressure, you get promoted into collection, which is where the cartel's business model becomes undeniable. Now, you're not just moving product, you're enforcing control. You're handed a weapon and a list, and the job is to gather regular payments from local businesses under the logic of protection and tax. The amounts vary based on the business, but the concept never changes. Pay on time or face consequences. Most people comply because they've seen what happens when someone refuses, but there is always someone who tries to negotiate, delay, or claim hardship, and that's where the cartel's message becomes public. You don't need complicated speeches. You need an example. Property gets destroyed, someone gets hurt, and the neighborhood learns that the payment isn't a donation, it's a requirement. On the surface, your life looks like it's improving fast. You buy status symbols, you help your family, you move your mother into a better home, and nobody asks too many questions because the results feel like relief. But the upgrade comes with a trade. You are now visible. You're a known face to victims, rivals, and law enforcement looking for someone they can actually grab. Every collection run is exposure, and exposure is a countdown. Then, you reach cell leadership. And this is where the job turns into management of inventory, people, and chaos. You're given a small crew, and you're responsible for moving product through a local network while holding territory against competitors. Money starts flowing upward, but a percentage stays with you, and suddenly you're operating like a middle executive in a violent corporation. You're also responsible for security, which in cartel terms means responding fast when challenged. And here's the key shift. You're no longer waiting for instructions for every problem. You're expected to solve problems. That expectation pushes leaders into escalation because hesitation looks like weakness. When violence happens, whether triggered by retaliation, intimidation, or rivalry, it rarely stays contained. Innocent people get caught in it, headlines appear, and officials promise action. But in places where corruption is routine, promises don't always become consequences, because influence gets purchased quietly and accountability gets delayed until everyone forgets. Meanwhile, your personal life becomes a disguise. A nice house, a relationship built on a cover story, respect from those who fear you, but the stress doesn't fade. Your crew is young, impulsive, and often undisciplined. They draw attention, make mistakes, and create problems you're forced to clean up. Discipline becomes part of your job. And in a system built on fear, discipline tends to be brutal. Above you, the demands never stop. Your superiors want more profit, more control, more speed. If you can't produce, you don't simply get fired, you get replaced. And replacement isn't a career transition. From there, you move into regional operations, which is less street-level action and more coordination. You're not just handling one crew, you're overseeing multiple teams and balancing supply, distribution, and conflict across a wider area. Meetings become more cautious, locations change frequently, security tightens, and your role becomes planning rather than participating. Expansion isn't random, it's calculated. You study where rivals are weak, where local enforcement can be neutralized, and where influence can be bought. Violence becomes a tool used to send messages, not just to remove obstacles. The point is control. Control of routes, neighborhoods, and reputation. Alongside the violence is the money, and the money creates a new problem. You can't handle large cash flows like a normal person, so it gets filtered through fronts and intermediaries, spread across assets and businesses meant to look legitimate. Your income reaches levels that feel unreal, and your life splits in two. One version for family and public appearance, another for the work that makes it possible. But with that scale comes attention from serious investigators. You begin to assume you're being monitored. Communication becomes cautious. You rely on trusted intermediaries. You speak indirectly. And even then, you're fighting on multiple fronts at once. Rivals outside the organization, pressure from government forces, and ambitious people inside your own structure who want your position. Sleep becomes short. Trust becomes rare. Even family ties stop guaranteeing loyalty. At the next level, you become a plaza boss, effectively controlling a whole region's criminal economy. Nothing major happens without your awareness. Shipments, bribes, disputes, punishments. You oversee a large network of armed men and generate enormous revenue for the larger organization. Yet the higher you go, the less visible you become. Public anonymity is a form of survival. Your life is locked behind layers of security, and your work starts to resemble politics. You negotiate with rivals to prevent costly wars when possible, and you negotiate with officials not by threatening them openly, but by offering incentives that are hard to refuse. For those who resist, pressure comes in other forms: exposure, leverage, sabotage, until resistance becomes inconvenient. Operationally, you're managing logistics across borders, sourcing, transporting, coordinating methods, adapting when routes shift. At this height, money stops feeling like the goal and starts feeling like a scoreboard you barely notice. Because what you really manage is risk. And that risk shapes everything you can't do. You can't appear freely in public. You can't attend certain family milestones. You can't grieve openly. You can't relax. Because paranoia becomes rational when betrayal is common. You start suspecting people around you, security, accountants, trusted aides, because infiltration is always possible. And inside your world, suspicion alone can become a death sentence. The golden lifestyle becomes a cage, and the cost is your peace of mind. Then comes the cartel leader tier, where the scale goes international and the stakes become global. Whether you inherited the position or fought your way into it, you now lead an organization with reach far beyond one state or one country. Influence extends into politics, business, and law enforcement, and the wealth associated with it is enormous, but so is the visibility to intelligence agencies and special units. Your name is tied to major investigations. There are bounties, task forces, and constant pressure. You move frequently, you reduce your public footprint, you restrict who can see you, and you treat every relationship as a potential threat. Even your identity may change over time because survival becomes an obsession. You meet rivals not as friends, but as negotiators, carving up territory and setting temporary boundaries. It can look like stability for a moment. Everyone profits. Everyone avoids open war, but that balance doesn't last. Someone always wants more, and more is the fuel that restarts conflict. When war breaks out, it doesn't stay between criminals. Communities suffer, everyday life collapses, and violence becomes the soundtrack of places that used to be normal. And here's the trap at the very top. You can't simply retire. You know too much, you've made too many enemies, and the organization can't risk you becoming a liability. Power becomes a lifetime contract with no exit clause. Eventually, the system catches up. Maybe it happens through a raid, maybe a betrayal, maybe a long investigation that finally closes a circle. But the end state is the same. Confinement designed to remove your ability to influence anything. Extreme isolation, strict control, no bribery, no rescue plan, no workaround. The empire that once felt unstoppable shrinks into a small, silent space where time moves slowly and consequences finally feel real. The irony is sharp. You spent years controlling people through fear, and now fear has become your daily environment. In that cell, you can't negotiate, can't intimidate, can't buy distance from the truth. You have nothing to do except replay decisions, faces, and moments that built the path to that door closing behind you. But the story doesn't end with you, because organizations like this are designed to survive the loss of individuals. When one leader falls, someone else rises family, lieutenants, ambitious operators, because the incentives remain, the market remains, and the structure remains. The product keeps moving, the money keeps circulating, the violence keeps renewing itself. That's the final argument that matters. This isn't a street gang fueled by chaos alone. It behaves like a business empire built on coercion, corruption, and replaceable labor. And the cycle feeds on the same recruitment funnel. It started with another teenager in another neighborhood, sitting outside another store, watching the road, thinking it's just a small job, not realizing it's the first step into a machine that rarely lets anyone walk away.